Greetings, nerds. This is Sane and Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Paul. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. Happy July 1st.
Oh my God, thank God June's over.
Yeah.
June just felt
Indeed.
long. Like, usually July feels long to me, which I am fully prepared for it to be the never-ending month. But June this year felt like somehow there was an extra week.
Hmm.
It
Fair
just
enough.
it
Yeah.
was like, all right, let's get going.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But July is like I was posted on our blog as far as like all the content. It's like I know earlier this year when we had like the overlap of like The Last of Us and then Andor and Daredevil. Now this month we have like now we've got like another big month of just like stuff. And then we're talking Ironheart tonight, and then of course we got a couple little small films coming out this month, and also The
there
Bear. So yeah.
there's stuff this month, but I was thinking about it before we got on. There isn't a lot of overlap.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's an interesting comparison to what happened in the, I don't know, like collision course that was March through April through May.
through May.
It's
Yeah,
just things
People-
happening. You're like, okay, calm
yeah,
down, people.
yeah,
But because they decided to change the release order of Ironheart, we're gonna get that out of the way and then head to the movies and then get back for the Bear, which got renewed for a fifth season. I'm not like,
yeah.
this is news to Will. For me, I was like, it's already gonna get
I,
I'm not
given the lack of fanfare that this fourth season has gotten, I mean, I honestly, it was one of those things. Speaking of June, it was like it was coming, and I knew it was like going to come at the end of the month. And maybe to your point about June being a long month, it just kind of snuck up on me. But when it was released, I was like, "Oh yeah, the bear came out." Or maybe it's because we're gonna wait to cover it, this month. Maybe that's why I was just sort of like, "Well, I know I'm gonna watch it in a few weeks. I'm not gonna watch it when it drops in the
yeah.
last week of June." Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah,
think
but
it's more about that and also trying to stay away from anything
mm,
for spoilers or for
true.
even just like, no, I want to go into this for my own opinions. I don't want to have
Yeah,
anyone like an idea of what I should expect. Like, I don't want my expectations hampered. I mean, I watched season 3.
yeah,
Okay. I know what to expect.
yeah,
um,
yeah. But
but
yeah, but it was yeah, but but usually, but the thing is, especially with streaming shows these days, usually when it's a sure bet for renewal. I mean, this it's not uncommon for things to get renewed, even either day of premiere or a few days before the premiere. And I guess that's where it was. So, and also just to honestly, just the cast, everyone is really just going to be so busy with upcoming projects. I mean, you got Jeremy Allen White, I know he's doing the Springsteen. I think he's is it also going to be in uh, the upcoming Star Wars film that with Ryan Gosling. Io, she's got stuff going. I mean, everybody's just super busy, so it was just like, will they have time to film it? But season 5
the 5th
was
season?
officially, huh?
Will they
Yeah,
have time to film the 5th season?
yeah, they're going to
Yeah,
film
did
it.
they give a release date? Like, what's their filming
2026.
schedule? 2026, so next year? Okay.
Next year. Yep.
Yeah, the only reason why they had time to do a lot of the projects that are getting released for these actors is because they filmed, season 3 and season 4 back to back.
True. True. Yeah.
So they had already figured that out, and so, yes, they have projects, but for most part, they're in, other than that Star Wars one, they're probably in the promotional area, which allows them to be open for filming of that show, and they're probably all contracted for at least 5 to 6 seasons, so,
Yeah, yeah,
I
and
mean
and a good thing about it too is like I mean post production on the show. It's not like one of the sci-fi shows where you have like a bunch of special effects and stuff either, so they can really turn it around.
yes.
Yeah.
What else? Denis Villeneuve is set to direct the next James Bond movie.
Yeah, so this was, yeah, I know you're not a big Bond person, but I am, and when I saw this news, I was pretty excited actually. I know this is the first project that since the acquisition of the Bond franchise by Amazon, from the MGM and the Broccoli family. So I know there was a lot of discussion about whether or not Christopher Nolan was going to do it, or someone else, but yeah, but then he was signed to do it, and now we'll just sort of see who's going to be the next Bond.
Yeah, that's the question that I really want answered, especially with Denis on board to direct.
Mm.
So that'll be interesting what direction they go with that. Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey trailer has leaked online.
Yeah, yeah. So Nolan really likes to have his trailers released cinematically, but apparently the trailer dropped was leaked today. This is a screen grab from it, and I did not pull it because I don't want to get a copyright strike on our show, because Universal's pretty aggressively going after it. But it was, I think, about a minute and a half long teaser trailer. Yeah, it had clearly, Matt Damon is playing Odysseus. John Barenthal was also in this trailer with a mystery character. Tom Holland, of course, is in it as well, and I think many other folks. But yeah, it did drop, and if you're lucky enough if you want to see it, it is out there on Twitter and TikTok, and but I know Universal is very aggressively striking those sites down who are um, putting copyright strikes on them. So if you see it, great. If not, just be like the rest of us and wait for it when it comes out. But this film is actually slated to come out in 2026 as well,
Yeah, in
uh,
July.
in July. Yep,
Yep. Nolan loves his July release date.
he does. Yeah.
So, and then Matt Reeves and co-writer Mattson Tomlin have finished the Batman 2 script, and all I have to say about that is who cares?
So yeah.
like honestly, I'm not a big fan of the first movie that came out, even though I love the casting that occurred.
Mm,
But I mean, the Penguin, like I even forgot about that, but I love the Penguin as my favorite show I watched last year. But that doesn't necessarily mean like, oh yay, the Batman too, because all I can really think about this is it just makes me question things. Because
mm,
you're telling me way back, like 5,000 years ago, because it feels like it's been so long since the
yeah.
Batman first came out. Like they didn't they didn't think that it was gonna do good enough to already have an idea for the sequel? Like, they
Well.
didn't like, I just wonder, so you wrote 1 movie,
Mhm,
and from what I vaguely recall of the ending, you didn't already have an idea of where the character was gonna go for sequels because it's Batman. Like,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
going to
Well.
do well. It's just
Yeah.
sorry, for me, I just question why so long? Why did it take forever to get made? And especially with all of the talk about spin-offs and all of this
Mm,
other stuff, and the only thing that really came of anything regarding all of that talk was the Penguin, which also took a while to get developed and in production and finally shot and then aired last year. So
yeah.
it's just weird to
Well.
me.
Yeah, well, from what I understand, it was part of it was, I think Matt had some things happen in his personal life that interrupted him drafting the sequel. Plus, there was also the writer strike. I mean, that also added time where pens were down. So I think there were some extenuating circumstances that um, delayed getting the final script ready, but he finally did finish it, and it'll be hopefully they'll be really moving towards production. And I think currently the film is slated to come out in I think October of 2027. So
I'll believe it when I see it.
yeah, yeah. Well, they have a timeline. So
I don't when I see it. Because the original was slated for an October date and it got pushed back to a March. But
yeah,
just
but
saying.
that's but Warner does that though too with a lot of their big
Yes.
films.
Yes, they
Yeah,
do. Yes, they
yeah.
do. Another trailer I did not see was Eyes on Wakanda, which dropped, and it's a new 4-episode animated series in that is coming to Disney Plus on August 27th.
Yep, yep. So yeah, that's the animated. That's the other Ryan Coogler, and I've also developed this. And it looks like I think it's a prequel, if I recall, for some of the um, backstory for Wakanda. And yeah, and I think all 4 episodes are dropping at once. So I did see the little teaser that they dropped today. It looks really good. Looks really good.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And it makes sense that you drop that while people are watching Ironheart. I know the second half of the season dropped today. Tonight we're just talking about the first 3 episodes, and next week we'll wrap up with the final 3 episodes. And all that I'm thinking about is the fact that we didn't talk about how we're going to do this during the pre-show. So, I'm just going to go through each episode's IMDb summary, okay? And then I'll circle back and just say an overall thought
Okay.
that can get us started, okay?
All
I
right.
don't think we need to break down necessarily episode by episode, but that's just me. Um, so episode 1 is called Take Me Home. MIT student Riri Williams builds an advanced armor suit inspired by Tony Stark. While dealing with challenges as a young Black woman in tech, she confronts a tech based threat and must decide if she's ready to become Ironheart. The second episode, Will the Real Natalie Please Stand Up? Riri's new AI dredges up painful memories ahead of her first heist with Parker and his crew. In episode 3, We in Danger Girl, Riri is uncomfortable being part of Parker's crew. 2 more heists, max, and she's out, she promises. So, Will,
Mhm.
what is like an overall or an opening thought that you have about Riri and these 3 episodes?
Yeah, yeah. So my overall first thought is, Disney really like screwed the pooch with the lack of publicity for this show because I actually really did enjoy these 3 episodes overall. Did they blow me away? You know, no, but it were, but it also, but they were very solid. I also think that I'll just go ahead and just put it out there as far as some of the bullshit review bombing that was happening by a lot of neckbeards and people, in bad faith, where you know review bombing the show before it even aired. I mean, we just call it for what it is. It's a bunch, it was just a bunch of misogynist, racist bullshit. And
Mhm.
so, and I, think it's, and so when I did see the 86% Rotten Tomato score, I mean, for folks who do put stock in those things, I was just like, as some, and I do use it as a barometer, certified fresh. I was like, that was a nice FU to all those review bombers. So,
Mhm. Right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, but I, but to what, as I said earlier, I'm glad, I know it was a lot of grassroots, organic, publicity that people did for this show. But I also do think that it was very wise of them to do this release structure how they rolled it out with the 3 and 3 because obviously, like you said, we haven't watched the final 3 episodes that are airing tonight as we were recording this, but they, as a mini series, I think the 3 stories do work very, very well together, like a little mini movie, which is, I think it's more common these days. Whenever series do get rolled out, they'll do it this way. and I think that really did complement the show very well to do it that way. Because I will say, the first episode, I watched the episodes twice because I wanted to be really, just to be fair. I try to always watch things twice if I can. And the first episode when I first watched it, uh, like I said, didn't blow me away, but I was just like, this is entertaining. Um, but watching everything again, this show has a lot in it, and a lot. And I don't know, whenever we get in more detail, breakdown on some of the aspects of it, it really is a very solid and very very good show in my opinion. I like, honestly, I'll just put it out there. I liked it better in Daredevil Born Again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Um, I like this show. I'm not in love with this show. I think it has a lot of flaws. Um, I have issues with it. And I yeah, I think Disney did a horrible job at promotion, but also I think based on the job that they did and what they delivered, I feel like they just wanted to hide it. They wanted to bury it almost.
Yeah.
Because they didn't believe in it. And so, but overall, it's interesting because since watching the 3 episodes, I was pretty engaged through most of it.
Hmm.
And but I'm a bit biased. And I'm biased, and I say that because I'm biased towards the actress who plays Natalie.
Mm.
Because that actress, whose name is Lyric, she played a very pivotal character on This Is Us.
Yep.
Okay. And I recently watched her on the That Was Us podcast because she comes on, and I love her relationship, like both on and off screen with Sterling K. Brown. So I'm a bit biased to like that character. And root for her. And
Yeah.
it's weird because when I talk about Riri,
Hmm.
I liked her Riri more in Wakanda Forever
Mm.
than I do in this show.
Mm.
And but it's also strange to say that because I find her relationship with Natalie versus and her relationship with Joe, who I mean, I know his real name, Ezekiel,
Yep.
aka Ezekiel Stein, to be the best parts of the show.
Hmm.
Like the actress who plays Riri, her chemistry with both Lyric and Alden Wright, like the those two dynamics
Yeah.
work so well,
Yep.
and then everything else is bullshit.
I would say it's bullshit. I mean,
It's
I'm
just
about
boring to
hurry up.
me. It's just boring to me. It's
Well,
and like I say bullshit in the terms of like, okay, now we're entering after school special territory. But
yeah. See, here's the thing. This is why it's like, and maybe it's just, I don't know. They're like, where I think this show, where people, because I know, obviously we'll talk about the AI piece, and that was one of the things you and I messaged about over the weekend. But there was one element of the story with the Hood, with Parker, and his taking on the billionaires and stuff. And part of it is something that, I hadn't heard any people, actors, at least the ones, some of the bigger ones, talk about. But the whole thing with the whole uh, first mission with Riri and the with the tunnel, and they talk about how the tunnel, one of the underlying things that's going to connect the city, and all these great things that the tunnel's going to do. And then I can't help but think about like gentrification, and also like and seeing how like freeways that are like cut through like minority black communities and stuff,
yeah.
and it's supposed to be all this great stuff and all that. And And so when I see this thing about a tunnel, I think about an experience here, like in the town that I live in, where everybody talks about how great the freeway is going to be cut through, going to be done. But of course, they like cut it right through the middle of the black neighborhood. And
Mhm.
so for me, when I watch it, and maybe it is a cultural filter kind of thing, that maybe for maybe that's why it resonates with some audiences more than others. They're experiences that are built into the show that I identify with, because I'm like, oh yeah, this reminds, the tunnel, and the crew that, whenever they were like talking about some of the why they were doing I was like, ah, yeah, I thought about the Durham Freeway here in town, because it's the kind of
Mhm.
things that, like that, those are the, it may not be like, and it's to be good writing, because it's not like it's not the big exposition dump, or beating you over the head with it, but those are some of the things that you can like bake into the story, that that may miss, that some viewers may miss.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So you're saying that not a lot of people are talking about it?
I mean, not that. I mean, that's just. Well, I mean, well, a lot of things I've seen. This is like, the whole criminal. Was she a criminal? The Robin Hood. The whole, rich rob from the rich, and you know, Of course, there's like the Scott. The Riri's doing criminal acts, and then there's the, Scott Lang was a felon. As far as So there's been some of that discourse out there, um, but I hadn't seen anything as far as some of the, that aspect of the tunnel. I mean, and maybe there is. I just, hadn't paid a
Right,
whole lot of attention.
right. No, I mean, you raise a very valid point.
Yeah.
That, and obviously from where I grew up, like I don't have that same experience at all, and that can be lost on me. But at the same time, hearing that and the few discussions I have overheard about this show, people have pointed out, is like, considering we're talking about the hood and his
Hmm.
vendettas, like this idea that you have a someone whose power and ability lies in tech versus
Hmm.
someone who's in the mystical realm,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
magic versus technology. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
But for
It is.
me as a viewer, they ain't selling it. It doesn't, for some reason, it does not, it
Yeah.
falls flat. And
Yeah.
I mainly blame Anthony Ramos, but I also know he's just performing what he, like the script.
Yeah.
But I just, there's something about it, like, and I will be frankly honest, like, I mean, yes, we already established I don't have that experience with the tunnels to make that connection. Even though there is a line in the show which did stand out to me where they talk about, like, yeah, but nobody seems to care about the communities that these tunnels are going to destroy.
That's it.
But
That's the trigger for me. Yeah.
yeah, like that's a great line and a good point. But for some reason, they should have done something where you actually see a community. You see, no,
Hmm.
not a community, something that really affects Riri.
Hmm.
Like this is why I kind
Good
of
point.
just gave that general thing of like everything else is bullshit, is because here's my, like, an issue I have is, yes, the hood Parker has these vendettas. This
Hmm.
show is called Ironheart. So we really are following Riri. So we don't have time, like there's not enough time to explore the vendettas,
Hmm.
but also make it meaningful for Riri. And if they had done that, because say the first tunnel that was built disrupted like the neighborhood where Natalie used to live.
Yeah.
Okay. And you see that. And as a viewer, you pick up on like why Riri would not only, not just for the money, but also the personal side of it, And as a viewer, you start to empathize with that loss. So then all of a sudden, like that a whole idea about criminal versus hero, like that gray area becomes broader and
Yeah.
more emotional, and just the motivations are more clear. Like, I don't know, I find myself, the more I think about it and the more I talk out loud and rant, I think there's like two different shows almost happening. There's the
Mm,
Hood show and then there's Ironheart. And
yeah.
I like the Ironheart show because with the Ironheart show, I get to see her play off of Joe and I get to see her play off of Natalie. The Hood show I'm not on board with. It just-
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe, and I will agree with you. I guess it really, as far as the Hood, I mean, the Hood, the band around him.
yeah.
I mean, I actually, those characters. Yeah, are they Ocean's 11 or or Spy Kids or whatever, whatever I I've
The
seen like,
Sopranos. It
yeah,
wasn't Spy Kids, it was, are we Ocean's 11 or
Seven,
are we The Sopranos? Like, are
Sopranos,
we
yeah,
gonna kill
yeah,
people or are we just stealing things?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't think it's Spy Kids. I was thinking about Riri and Natalie. To your point about again, the strength of their relationship.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, but I I think it was the moments. Yeah, maybe this is where the 6 episode runtime, hurts the show. Because I agree with you that the motivations for Parker aren't, they're sort of surface level, and not, it's sort of like, I mean, I know, we get some of it with, like, with the tattoos and the, hiding the scales that, that clown talks about, John doing the, the tattoos and all that kind of stuff. So we do get that there is some kind of Faustian bargain that he's made with probably Mephisto. I mean, by the time this
Mhm.
airs, that may be confirmed by the time, by the time we talk about it next week. But, so
Can
there's elements of it. Hmm?
yeah. I just the Mephisto of it all, right?
Yes.
Okay. I thought, like, after the whole Wanda vision and then Loki debacle with Mephisto, like, from what I understand, there's issues with actually utilizing that character because of, like, this platform is worldwide and
Mhm.
they're not gonna get viewers over in China.
I've heard that, but I also have heard that they actually cast Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto, and
Okay,
he's supposed to show up
okay.
in the show.
Got it,
So,
got it.
yeah,
Okay, alright. Spoiler alert, ruined.
yeah.
Okay, like,
I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
that was
think
yeah,
they're teasing stuff with him,
yeah,
but we still don't have, like, at the end of the last episode, when his cousin dies
mhm.
and he's screaming the loss, I will be honest, I was like, I don't care because I don't know their relationship that well,
Yeah, I
if
mean,
that makes sense.
yeah, I hear you. I mean, I know, like, there, when in the first episode, whenever we were first introduced to Parker and John, when they see Riri flying over Chicago after she gets kicked out of MIT. There was, again, I get where you're coming from, and I agree. I mean, that's one. That's why I said. I mean, I thought it was solid, but there's things that I mean, not going to be like rose-colored glasses here. Yeah, that is an element that I think is not fully developed.
Yeah.
I will agree with you there. There's elements of it there. We do see the relationship. We do know that John was responsible for, taking Parker in when he was young to help raise him and that kind of stuff. But um
There's
and
no
he
there's not really any emotional attachment, and the other thing I have with the whole Hood
Mhm.
storyline is now I initially liked the band. I like the ensemble, even though they have some of the lamest powers. I'm talking mainly about the punching twins. But I don't I I just what I we're not seeing they we're introduced to them
Mhm.
on with a job that goes wrong.
Yeah.
And then they need Riri, and she's really the only reason why the next one goes correctly. And so I'm just thinking, like, this whole time, especially every time Parker gives come kind of pep talk, I'm just like, how many jobs did you guys do together before we got here? Before Riri came that went good? Because I don't see the track record that you're bragging about.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well,
I have
and yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I think that's the other thing too. I mean, Parker, I mean, he's not like maybe he's not a criminal mastermind
right.
or even, or and not even another thing too that's a nitpick of mine just with the with the heist that they were doing and this whole contract thing. I mean, you know, this contract as soon as these barren capitalists of industry in Chicago like give this to their lawyers or whatever, they would like im- immediately like it's null and void because it was these things were signed under duress. So I mean, so again, so from that standpoint, just thinking through things, to your point, yeah, how do these things even go successfully to begin with? And maybe that's the flaw. Maybe that is just sort of highlighting the flaws of these characters and why when Riri whenever they do the greenhouse heist, her well, I guess it was it was actually her mistake that caused the problem that time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, that was all on her.
that was all on her. But
That was her.
the other two see well actually now that you think about it, even the tonal one was on her because
Yeah.
Natalie like jumped in and causes her to lose the thing. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But
so
I also, I mean, to your point about the contracts,
yeah,
there's something just not threatening
yeah,
about the hood. And I kind of understand because they want to present him as Robin Hood, and
mhm,
so you feel like, oh, he can't be that bad. But at the same time, they it's just like overall my biggest issue, and I've said this about other shows, is especially in this genre, I still believe firmly that whether it's a movie or a TV show, it's only ever as good as the villain.
that's true.
And you can have you can have a really good strong character be your hero, but their motivations often have to be intertwined with that villain character, and you have to understand what the villain is doing and why, or else everything just feels basic and just
Yeah,
like, yeah, this is we've seen this story before. and
yeah,
and so you're yeah, so I think that's where really the root of my issues are, because with what I call the Ironheart storyline with Riri, Natalie, and Ezekiel, I find that stuff to be fun and
mhm,
um not not totally like blown away by anything, but I'm like, okay, I could get on board with this.
yeah,
Um, but and it's not just because of the emotional attachment or anything. I just think that the actress who plays Riri has both good on-screen chemistry with those other characters more so than
yeah,
anytime she's with Parker and the gang.
yeah. And also, other. I think the other thing too, like the relationships that she also has with Xavier and her mother as well. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think those are like the emotional cores of like that. That is. definitely driving the show and the story very well. And to your point about one thing we mentioned about the villains and their motivations and stuff, because usually, and maybe this is like with how the third episode ended, with Riri, pulling a Bruce Wayne and Batman Begins. I don't, I don't have to, I won't kill you, but I won't save you either.
Mm-hmm.
uh, with Joe, with John, um, maybe that is sort of the catalyst that as the story turns, will get that tension point between the two of them, uh, especially when he figures out that she did steal a piece of the cloak, and and was responsible for John's death, especially whenever whoever is manipulating the cloak, from the mystical side, had John show up in the and expose the betrayal about it for the team. So
I like how you
maybe
say
that
whoever, even though you already told us who.
yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I know it's Mephisto, but just to give myself, we've been burned by the Mephisto for so many times over the years.
Oh,
This was a show. This was
Mephisto.
a show Mephisto was supposed to show up in, he didn't.
This was the show. No, this was the show.
No,
No,
this is a
this
show.
was the
Yeah,
show.
he was supposed to show up in Agatha. Nope. So,
No, this was just show. What else do you want to talk about?
well, I know we touched. I know over the weekend, we did talk about the AI of it all, and having um the Natalie show up, be to her image showing up, for me it was just, I guess it was in the context of I think earlier in either last week or week before last, I was just sort of just seeing some stories in the news about, there was AI generator out there. Someone had like put a picture of their deceased family member and generated a video and stuff from it, and I just from the ethical standpoint of just it just really struck me, and also especially when Natalie and Ronnie had that moment, when Ronnie was doing the painting, and Natalie like peered, worked her way out of the laptop and
Mm-hmm.
projected herself, and just the whole ethics of it all, and then also just thinking when Ronnie was asking, Riri, could you make another Gary,
Mm-hmm.
and Riri said, no, sorry, I can't. Just the whole ethics of just some of the whole thing around it too, especially like the dynamic that Riri had initially, with Natalie, or the AI Natalie. I should be
Mm-hmm.
very clear. Um, just the it was like she was trying to like end it and kill the end the AI, erase the AI. So it was almost like it was on some level she was like, this is wrong, but at the same time, over as they needed her to rebuild a suit and all that kind of stuff, she began to begin to fall on it. But it just really just there's someone, we've all in some form of lost people, and just thinking about the ethics of it, and this thinking also just like in the MCU, like in the past with Jarvis becoming you know
Mm-hmm.
with Vision, and just because this show, I think, was made, I think it was filmed a few years ago, so now when it was, and in the past in MCU when we had AI, it was like this cool thing, but now that we're getting more, it's getting generative AI is getting more mature. And thinking about that news article I read, and like people possibly regenerating old family members, and I guess it's interesting to how people, how this could be used to deal with grief. And I'm thinking about Ronnie,
Mm-hmm.
because she, like, her reaction to Natalie was not like, oh God, this is like, first it's like, back away, Satan. But then when she realized it wasn't a ghost, it was like, this is how because of the drive by and stuff, it was like really You know, you know, Ronnie was like very open to it and stuff. So just to contrast, and I think you put in your notes, as far as to talk about like why didn't she like freak out whenever she, um,
So,
you know,
so
yeah,
here, so I go back and forth about this whole thing,
yeah,
specifically with Ronnie, because I find that her reaction of asking, "Can you make Gary?" was very endearing, very
hmm,
empathetic. I loved it.
hmm,
Then I think about it.
yeah,
And I think about other things that occurred with Ronnie in this show, specifically when the episode 2 begins and Natalie and or Riri wakes up and realizes what she's done in the kitchen.
hmm,
Can I make sure everyone understands? Like, let's, if only this was a visual podcast, we would have a whiteboard and I would be explaining something to Will on the whiteboard. Okay. So just
yep,
imagine, if you will, okay, that I have a whiteboard and I'm drawing. Because this is an apartment, right, Will, that we're
yep,
in?
yep,
Hey, can you explain to me why during that moment Ronnie is yelling from somewhere, what feels like on the bottom floor of a two-story house, but I know they're in a one-story apartment, but she seems very far away and for some reason won't go into the kitchen. And
hmm,
so Natalie and or Riri has enough time to get Natalie the iron suit all out of the kitchen and into her room without her mom ever realizing, because her mom is still stuck somewhere just yelling what's going on. I
yeah. So
so
you got a
that
point.
that stuck with me throughout the
Yeah.
rest of the episode. So by the time the projection happens, then the thought before I get to the very endearing moment occurs. But
Mhm.
then the thought, like her whole Satan thing, I'm just like, how much, like, how much weird stuff has Riri built for her mom to see? Because her mom is acting way too calm about this. And I don't,
Yeah.
there's just this weird stuff. And then the more I think about that line about Gary, I also go to the first episode where it's very clear that her mom recognizes that Riri has not dealt with her grief,
Mhm.
almost to the point where she says it as if she has. So then
Yep.
like, I'm not going to say it's a very contradictory character because I've dealt with those on this
Yeah.
show.
No.
But she's walking a fine line. And I really need a blueprint of the apartment. I need
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
writers to explain to me where she was when she was yelling, and then all things will be resolved.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, too, but I think as far as something you said earlier about how many weird things Riri's built. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think they're used to. I mean, Riri's clearly a prodigy,
Right, but she's
and
also been
and
at MIT. And to
yeah,
me, I got the sense in the first episode that she hasn't been home too
no,
much over
she hasn't
since
been
the shooting because she doesn't want to deal with the grief.
right.
And I
Yeah.
think that's overall why the AI ethics aside and everything, reality aside, I mean, this is a fantasy world. I know it's almost too close, but at the same time, it's like that's why it works because now simultaneously the the lead is able to deal with her grief. That's
Hmm.
a motivating factor to her becoming a hero, while simultaneously creating this AI that is pivotal. Like that's an
Yeah.
essential part of a Iron Man suit is the
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
So I like the building blocks. I just need a sketch of the department and I just need to understand that whole sequence. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean their relationship is good. Um, and then you have Stein,
Yeah.
which it sounded like you were very happy and satisfied with that parallel that they came up with. Did you see that coming, or did you know about it beforehand?
No, I did not. I did not know about it at all. I mean, but it was a nice connection to the original Iron Man film.
Mhm.
And you know, and also also like again, it not only told us a lot about Ezekiel, but also about Riri, as far as the reason why why she builds all these suits and stuff is because Gary was actually the Tony Stark fanboy. you know um and also so I like that piece, but also I did like the tie, and also just why Ezekiel is the way that he is, as far as just the not really just trying to just stay under the radar, even to the point where he lets his neighbor's dog shit on his lawn, and he just won't do anything about it.
Mhm.
um so I like that aspect of the show. I did like that, that that piece of the tie, the throwback to Obadiah. And can't help but think about you know how both Riri and Tony are very similar, in the sense that they did use the tools that they had to build these suits. I think about Obadiah, like the line, Tony Stark built a built this suit in the cave with scraps. And Riri's going to like the scrapyard to like build, to build her early suits and get parts to fix, to fix the suit that she flew back home in, after getting kicked out of MIT. So I did like that, those parallels. And also, will we see another parallel with Ezekiel, possibly, especially after going to such lengths and being very clear that he didn't want that mesh to get lost, or anything, the tip that, or any of these parts to like get traced back to him. Will that cause a strain in their relationship that we'll see in these next 3 episodes?
Yeah, well, that we know that that's going to cause a strain. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
all of
Oh well, yeah,
the highlighting, but how much of a strain, and ultimately if he's going to be a bad guy or a good guy, that has
yeah, yeah,
yet to be yet to
yeah.
be seen. I want to go back to what you just said about Gary,
Mhm.
and overall just the, and I think this is like the final point that I wanted to touch base on,
Sure.
but just Riri's motivation to build the suit. I I like the fact that she acknowledges that Gary was the Tony Stark fanboy. I
Mhm.
understand that. I also understand that there's something she has yet to say, which I think she'll say within the next 3 episodes, but that she's really building the suit for safety because she witnessed 2 people she loves gunned
Mhm.
down in broad
Mhm.
daylight.
Yep.
It's really kind of obvious, but I what drove me crazy throughout these episodes is just the constant, like, because I can,
Mhm.
and then I don't know, there's something about it where, and as much parallel that we talk about, and I know she's not Tony at the end of the day. I know she's not supposed to be Tony or anything, but I find, more often in the show than not, a lack of charisma from Riri.
Mm.
And like she gets it when she has dialogue with Joe, or when
Mhm.
she has dialogue with Natalie.
Mhm.
And then for me personally, the rest of it, she doesn't have a lot of it. Like, there, I don't know why that is.
Mm.
Um, but and I kind of correlate this to the overall, like, okay, but why the suit? and also, are we going to talk a little bit about your time in Wakanda and what you learned from Shuri? Like are we gonna go back there? I kind of wish, like, it's weird to me because we we meet her in Wakanda Forever in MIT. The first episode, within 5 minutes, she's kicked out.
Yeah. I like
And then
that.
we
Yeah.
hear about like this 5 years prior, this emotional trauma that occurred. But I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, well, by that point she was already at MIT.
Mhm.
So that, did I miss something in Wakanda Forever? Was that brought up at all? And also, like, I don't know, there's just something weird with the timeline that I'm trying to figure out. But
Yeah, I mean, I think I've only watched Wakanda Forever maybe twice, so, and it's been a long time. I think when it first came out, and then shortly after. But I mean, what I do remember about her in Wakanda Forever, and the character, the car, the specialness, the relationship there.
yes.
So I do remember that aspect of it. As far as the charisma, I mean, I think there were flashes. As far as with I think whenever she was with the Hood's gang, yeah, I think it was the directing choice to make her more muted there because of the ethical dilemma that she knew it on some level that this was wrong, and especially like when I think whenever after they do the tunnel heist, um, when she has both she and Natalie glitch because of the panic attacks. I mean, I think that's just that, and then later in the show, the other the other major panic attack, and Natalie help her to come, work through it in the shop. Um, I think that was that maybe that lack of charisma or whatever was intentional, but versus like the relationships that she's have with Joe and Natalie and Xavier and her mom. Because because I did see the charisma, especially like when she was giving the bullshit story to the dean, and she was just like, "Don't give me that." I love that. That. I think that was the moment where I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna like this show."
Hmm.
Because she was trying to like do that, because the dean was like, "Look, I bent over backwards for your ass, and you just like you squandered the opportunity here. So no, don't give me that."
Right, right.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was um I like that the dean called her out.
yeah, yeah.
But I didn't really, I thought more of the dean than I did of Riri in that moment.
Yeah.
I'll be
Well,
honest.
yeah, yeah.
'Cause
No,
I was
well, yeah,
like, this is,
yeah. I
if the
did too,
dean
but
thought it
also,
was this, I'm like, what?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I thought more of the Dean too. Just, I mean, yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying though, because I will say in those opening moments of the show, um, yeah, the even that, like, yeah, even like the flashback scenes that they had with Natalie, real, real life Natalie and Riri. Natalie she just sparkles. I mean, she just really, and maybe that's the point. I mean that you know, Natalie was the more outgoing, the um, more charismatic part of the pair, because she does pop even when they have their scenes together, with an AI Natalie. She still pops more than Riri.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the AI Natalie, I think it's interesting the subtleness that they're doing in terms of it understanding that when Riri looks at her, it's
Mhm.
bringing up this emotional trauma.
Yeah,
Well, like, I love that. I think my favorite line and scene was the whole, like, it's only that's only weird if you make it weird.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
like,
yeah,
well, I mean,
yeah,
it's weird. Like,
yeah,
what?
yeah.
It's just weird.
Yeah, it's just
Um,
weird. Yeah, yeah, and that's
but
the other thing too about the AI. I'm glad you said that too, because you know, and one thing I meant to say earlier when we were discussing the AI, with these memories, it's this projection is it's your memory of that person.
Right. And that's
Yeah.
why, like, there are so many blank spots or things like they don't know about, but things that they do, because
Mhm.
for the genius that Riri is, she hasn't made the connection that, like, girl, the AI is only going to know your memories.
Yeah.
So she's gonna know, like, if you did something together, she's gonna know about that, but she's not gonna
Mhm.
go know about something you did alone,
Yeah.
unless you told her about it. So that makes sense. But I think that, for me, the more I think about it, is Natalie is very similar, to, Vision,
Mhm.
and the idea of humanity,
Yeah.
because the longer she exists, she's going to want to be human and to have a life. And so that, the more I think about that, that is more appealing and a much more interesting story,
Yeah.
um, than arguably someone who is trying to create a suit
Mhm.
because she can.
Yeah.
So I like, and I'm not saying it's a complete loss, because you don't get Natalie without Riri and vice
Right.
versa.
Right.
So I think, um overall, I think that the show has parts and
Mhm.
aspects that are good and, like, has potential, more so than other of the weaker Disney Plus shows that we've talked about
Yeah.
over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but at the same time, it does have, some weaknesses that,
Yeah.
are just there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they are. I mean, yeah, I mean, then, yeah, like, yeah, there's no, I mean, all of these Disney Plus shows, even, I mean, even the gold standard ones that like WandaVision, um, had its flaws. So, um, but yeah, but this is not Secret Invasion either.
Oh, no, it's definitely, it's like mid-tier. It's
Yeah,
mid-tier.
yeah,
It's
yeah. It's
not one of
definitely
the better ones, it's not one of the worst ones, it's
yeah.
like mid.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll reserve judgment as far as like where it ranks after the last three, but so far I'm
well, you
liking it.
already said that you liked it more than Daredevil, so
I
I think
did, I
that
do,
speaks
I do. Yeah,
volumes.
yeah, I do. Yeah,
I like how you say that before you even seen the last 3 episodes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, but yeah, I guess I just didn't have that reverence of the Netflix show that a lot of people had. So
This is when, listeners, I expect you to go back and re-listen to how Will talked about the show at the time.
oh yeah, I like I said, I enjoyed it. It's not that I did not enjoy it. I'm just saying I like this one better. That's all.
Oh,
So far,
interesting.
so far.
I'm gonna wait to say anything until I've seen the full season.
Yeah.
So, because I'm also not a defender of Daredevil. I started high on that show, but by the end of it, I was checked out. I still have
Yeah.
so many questions about the way
Yeah.
that show ended, but whatever.
Yeah.
That seems to be a trend of mine this year
Yeah.
with these TV shows, is like I start strong and then by the end of it I'm like, what happened? What happened? All right. Well, that is it for us tonight. Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on all the socials at Will M Polk, WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me there too at SJ Belmont, SJBLMONT. Please follow our crew on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Scene and Nerd, on Blue Sky. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Threads at scene_n_nerd, and visit our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you hear podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.